Good morning. Today is Friday the 18th of September, and sitting on the porch swing out here in the backyard today. The rain has stopped, but everything's still really wet, and down in the garden everything's really wet. So today we are going to be looking at 3 John. It's 14 verses. It's the last of John's small letters. And I'm just going to go ahead and read these 14 verses, and we'll talk a little bit about what they have for us today. Verse 1 starts, "The elder, to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Beloved, I pray that you prosper in all things, to be in health, just as your soul prospers. For I rejoiced greatly when brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you, just as you walk in the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in the truth. Beloved, you do faithfully whatever you do for the brethren and for strangers, who have borne witness of your love before the church. If you send them forward on their journey in a manner worthy of God, you will do well, because they went forth for his name's sake, taking nothing from the Gentiles. We therefore ought to receive such, that we may become fellow workers for the truth. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence among them, does not receive us. Therefore, if I come, I will call to mind his deeds which he does, prating against us and with malicious words. And not content with that, he himself does not receive the brethren, and forbids those who wish to, putting them out of the church. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has a good testimony from all, and from the truth itself. And we also bear witness, and you know that our testimony is true. I had many things to write, but I do not wish to write to you with pen and ink. But I hope to see you shortly, and we shall speak face to face. Peace to you. Our friends greet you. Greet the friends by name." Now there's a few key things that I think are noted in this short little letter. He mentions in verses 5 through 8, he talks about how when people have gone out to share the gospel and determined not to take anything from the Gentiles, how that the church has supported them in their work, and by doing so, they became fellow laborers with them. Now that's a picture of a missionary that is going out to minister in an area, and the churches in that area support his work. And we see that all the time in our churches, where you have different ministries in our area, whether it be loaves and fishes. There's many different kinds of ministries that minister to specific groups, and they kind of focus on those groups. And Pleasant Hill, the church I pastor, we support several of those types of ministries here locally, as well as partnering with other missionaries that serve overseas, just to not only prayer support, but financial support to help them do what we can't do. Not everyone's called to go to a foreign mission field and preach the gospel and to in another nation, but we support those who do. And by doing so, we become a fellow laborer with them. John addresses that, and he encourages them in that, and commends them in that. And then he mentions also that he wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence among them, does not receive us. And then he condemns anybody in the church that receives them as well. And this, how sad is it? You know, I've seen this many times. I know churches near me that have, well, let's just say how it is. They have dictators for pastors. They have pastors who they want to be in charge of everything. Everything's got to go through them. Everything's got to have their stamp of approval. They've got to be in control of everything, and they like to have the preeminence in everything. They control some of them even control the purse strings, you know, all the money. There's even one pastor who owns the building. And, you know, I'm always reminded of what the New Testament says, that Jesus Christ is the head of the church. We're the body, he's the head. There's only one head. Adrian Rogers said it well. Any creature with two heads is a freak, and any creature with no head is dead. Someone's got to be in charge. Someone's got to be the head, and that person is Jesus. And so we've got to make sure that that we're following the lordship of Christ in all things. And as a pastor, it's my heart's desire to seek the Lord in all things, to seek the Lord's guidance, determining the direction of our ministry, how God's going to supply for different things in our ministry. All those things are we look to the Lord. Say you have a ministry that you want to start, but you don't have the workers. Well, Jesus even gave an answer to that in Luke chapter 10. He said, "Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he send forth laborers into his harvest." Yes, the harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few, but what's the answer to that? Pray. Seek the Lord of the harvest. Seek the Lord. Turn to the Lord. Why? Because he's the head of the church, and he's the Lord of the church. And that's the one that we look to and we depend upon. God didn't call pastors to be dictators. He called them to be under shepherds. Jesus himself is the chief shepherd. We are under shepherds that follow him and follow his dictates and his commands and lead our flocks accordingly to the will of the Lord. And that doesn't mean that we have to be a dictator. We have to lead people to follow the lordship of Christ in ministry. And so the letter is a short letter. He mentions also the fact that he wants to see them face to face, and he wants to encourage them. He's thankful for their faithfulness and their testimony that he's heard of how they're walking by faith. And another thing that he says that I thought was really powerful and such a true statement. He says in verse 4, he said, "I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth." And that is just such a true statement. As a pastor, you know, sometimes you get into a situation where it seems like there's just all kinds of problems. There's a lot of churches that just really struggle because there's a lot of immature Christians or the church has been floundering for years and not really having good leadership. And so the pastor sometimes can feel like all he does is put out fires and deal with problems. And sometimes it's easy to see all the problems and miss the blessings. And the blessings are always there. The blessings are in when someone gets saved, or when someone makes a commitment to the Lord, or when you see someone who's growing in their faith. That's what ministry is about to me. And that's where I'm just so thankful whenever I see someone who's growing in the Lord, that's a member of the church I pastor, that, I can't take credit for a lot of those things, but I'm just thankful to be a part of it. And I think it's important that we take time to be thankful when we see someone who is growing in their faith, and know that God has allowed us to be a part of that. And so I agree with John here. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing to see that your children, figuratively and even physically, my children, see them walking in the truth. There's no greater blessing than that. So that's God's word for today. I hope you have a blessed weekend. Look forward to seeing you at worship on Sunday, Pleasant Hill. If you don't have a church home, you're welcome to come and join us. But I pray God bless you this weekend, and just think about God's word today. And are you walking in the truth? That's a good question to ask ourselves today. Am I walking in the truth? Have a blessed day.